G'day everyone, welcome to my art channel Brushes with Beck. In this video I'm going to be sharing my experience of my first time using Pastelmat by Clairefontaine and my first impressions of this paper. So in this video you'll see me using Pastelmat paper, which is 35 by 50 centimeters in the colour white. Now before we begin, I upload new art content every week, so make sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell to be notified of all my uploads, and while you're at it, please give this video a like and comment down below. So what is Pastelmat? It's a textured surface by the company Clairefontaine. It is made for pastels but works well with other mediums like coloured pencil. It comes in a range of I think 12 colours, and it's available in a sturdy paper or a board. It's acid-free and comes as loose sheets or in pads of various sizes. So there's a few options to choose from. Now, I wanted to do a wildlife piece for my first test of this paper, but I didn't want to do just fur. I wanted to try out multiple textures and techniques to be able to best experience the paper and test it properly, which is why I picked a bird on a branch as opposed to just, say, the face of a lion or something like that. Now, the first thing that I noticed of this paper was the texture. To touch, the paper feels quite smooth, similar to velvet or velour, or the really finest grit sandpaper. To draw on, it is grittier than it feels, but building up layers made it really easy to remove that gritty texture. Now, I discovered pretty early on that I couldn't just brush away loose pigment as I do on other paper. I use a little fan paintbrush just to get rid of any little dust or flecks of stuff that have ended up on my paper to get them off. But on Pastelmat you can't do that. It smudges, so you instead have to blow away any pencil dust that gathers, so keep that in mind if you do try this surface, or you will end up with smudges everywhere. I used both my Faber-Castell Polychromos and Derwent drawing pencils on this piece, and both worked very well on the paper. The Polychromos are an oil-based and the Derwent drawing pencils are a wax-based pencil. Now, the one thing I love about textured paper is how easily pigment lays down with minimal effort. This was the case on the Pastelmat as well. Very light pressure allowed for plenty of pigment and colour lay down, and it was just really effortless, and I really enjoyed that about this paper. The number of layers was seemingly endless, especially in some of the leaves and gum nuts. I was applying layer after layer after layer without any trouble at all. So what about light over dark? With other papers, you need to preserve your light areas. I didn't find this as troublesome with Pastelmat. I easily added highlights over very saturated dark areas with a sharp pencil and a bit of firmer pressure. I wasn't worried about the order of my colour application for blending or anything like that. I just went in with whatever colours I wanted to go in with first. So what about blending? Another thing that I found really effortless on this paper. Blending colours was easy. It was easy to blend by layering colours together, and also by pushing pigment around, either with another pencil or with a cotton bud. So I did use both a cotton bud and coloured pencils on this paper to blend and to smooth out my work between layers. So as the paper is quite textured, and you get that gritty appearance, I wanted to smooth out lower layers before I applied the upper layers. Now, I found that some pencils smoothed out the texture better than others, but mostly I used a lighter tone of the colours I was trying to blend. So for example, I used the beige red to smooth out over red-brown tones, a warm grey 1 or 2 over brown tones, or the ivory over yellow or green tones. I found I could apply an extremely light layer of ivory over the greens to smooth out the texture of the green pencil without compromising the colour of the green too much. Or I could apply more pressure with the ivory to lighten the tone more. And that really, using the pencils in that way, really smoothed out the grain before I applied my next layer. Now, blending with the cotton bud was also really easy. It just blends away beautifully. I just had to make sure that I had enough room to work with because it's very easy to smudge outside of your lines on this paper. But I found it very useful for softening detail without having to overlay another colour for blending. Now, to begin with, I found fine details challenging, but certainly not impossible, and with a bit of practice and sharper pencils, details were easy to achieve. I personally find with smooth paper that it's more important to keep a sharp point because it makes it easier to apply colour. If you're using a more blunt pencil with smooth paper, I feel like I'm fighting to get colour to lay down. But with Pastelmat, I was able to use quite blunt pencils for a lot of colour laydown, and only needed to sharpen when I required really fine detail or to apply those light highlights over those darker areas of colour. So that was a really good thing here, that I wasn't constantly needing to sharpen my pencil because I could use them very easily as when they were blunt. So what are my pros and cons for this paper? I'll start with the cons because I feel that list is much shorter. If you're wanting a cheaper paper, this is not it. It's pricey, but with art supplies, you usually get what you pay for. And if you're doing commissions or selling your art, it's very easy to cover the cost of this paper within your pricing structure. Con number 2, it's dirty. Not only did I find that my pencils smudged easily on this surface, which is one of the reasons it's so great at blending colours, but the paper surface itself easily traps debris. For me, that is cat fur and general dust. Because of the fine texture, things just get stuck to the paper and you can't brush them off. In the end, it's not a problem because I was able to clean everything up with a kneaded eraser just by dabbing the paper, but keep in mind that it's not a paper you should just leave sitting out without it being protected, because it just traps things. Con number 3, transfer paper does not erase easily. Not a huge issue when you're covering it up with pigment, but something to keep in mind if you're doing something like a white cat on white paper. Con number 4, which I'm now realizing is more than I thought I had, it doesn't come in standard paper sizes, although the pads might do. This sheet is 35 by 50 centimeters, which is a half sheet. I'm used to standard sizes of A4, A3, A2, etc. But this half sheet is partway between A3 and A2 size, which can make things such as storage, packaging, ready-made frames, and all sorts more difficult. So just keep that in mind. You can obviously trim the paper to any desired size that you want, but then you're also wasting paper. So a bit of a balance there as to what's easier for you. So what are the pros? Basically, for me, everything else. If you like paper with a bit of texture, I highly recommend you try it. If you tried textured paper but didn't like it because you couldn't cover the grain, I highly recommend you try Pastelmat because you can cover the grain with blending more easily than other textured paper. The good thing about Pastelmat being available in loose sheets means that you can try it out, but you don't have to commit to a full pad with multiple sheets that you might never use if you don't like it. Now, I absolutely loved how easy the colour laydown was. I hardly had to apply any pressure at all to get a nice layer of colour, and that's really important for me because I get problems with my hand and elbow if I have to work too hard to apply colour, if I'm using too much pressure all the time. So ease of use is very important. I also loved how easily the colours blended and how easy the paper texture was to work with. But again, I'm a fan of textured paper. Now, the ability to apply light over dark is another big pro for this paper, and it's probably better explored for me in a piece with fur, but I managed it quite easily in the highlights of the leaves and applying some subtle overlaying texture with brighter colours, so I think it would be quite easy to do with fur as well. It really was everything I expected it would be, and probably more, but I definitely had to try it for myself, and I'm glad I did because I am definitely hooked on this paper. So let me know if you've tried Pastelmat in the comments section down below. If so, what did you think of it? Did you love it or did you hate it? I know some people love Pastelmat, and then there are people who just really hate textured paper, no matter how good that textured paper is. So if you liked this video, please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell button because I do upload a new video every single week. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, stay creative.